Hillary stood in the hallway of her in-laws' house, holding her suitcase and staring at the door. Her mother-in-law, arms crossed, smirked as if amused by Hillary's struggle. "Still here? I thought you'd be gone by now," she sneered, waving a hand to shoo Hillary away like an annoying fly. Next to her, Anna, Hillary's sister-in-law, stood with a smug grin, clearly enjoying the moment. Kyle, Anna's young son, looked on from behind them, his expression softening as he glanced at Hillary. He seemed to be the only one in the family who felt any sympathy for her. Hillary kept her gaze steady, determined not to let them see her pain. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. She'd endured enough already. Taking a deep breath, she looked directly at her mother-in-law. "Don't worry, I'll be gone soon," she said, her voice calm but firm. Just then, her phone chimed with a message. She glanced at the screen and saw the words, "Your ride has arrived." A small smile played at her lips as she slipped her phone back into her pocket. Ignoring their mocking stares, she picked up her suitcase and stepped past them. She was done with this place and everything it represented. As Hillary walked out the front door, the cool morning air hit her, refreshing and filled with promise. It was a welcome relief from the suffocating atmosphere inside. Parked at the curb was a sleek black luxury car, a striking contrast to the small, shabby house she was leaving behind. She approached it with a sense of newfound purpose, her footsteps steady. The car door opened, and Erica, her best friend, stepped out with a warm, encouraging smile. "Ready to leave this nightmare behind?" Erica asked, her voice calm but full of understanding. Hillary nodded, feeling the tension in her shoulders start to ease. "More than ready," she replied, glancing back one last time at the house. Her mother-in-law and Anna stood by the door, their faces a mix of shock and bitterness as they took in the sight of the car. They had clearly never expected Hillary to leave in such style. Erica had been a constant source of support through Hillary's difficult marriage, and today, she was there to help her take this final step. As Hillary climbed into the car, she felt a surge of relief. They drove away, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel the need to look back. She was finally moving forward. The ride was quiet, filled with an unspoken understanding between Hillary and Erica. Hillary watched the familiar streets pass by, each one holding memories she'd rather forget. Her thoughts drifted to the past, to the dreams she once had. She had always loved drawing and designing clothes. As a young girl, she'd sketched her own outfits, dreaming of one day owning a fashion line. She worked tirelessly, putting herself through design school, and eventually landed a job at a prestigious design company. That's where she met Michael. He had seemed like a dream come true, charming, supportive, and interested in her work. They dated for a year before he proposed, and she'd accepted, believing she'd found the perfect partner. But it wasn't long after their wedding that his true nature started to show. Michael's charm faded, replaced by indifference and coldness. He barely acknowledged her accomplishments and seemed irritated whenever she mentioned her dreams. As the car turned down a quiet street, Hillary shook off the painful memories. She was done with Michael, and with her in-laws who never respected her. Today marked the beginning of her new life. The car stopped outside Erica's spacious home, a welcoming sight compared to the tense environment Hillary had just left. Erica's house was warm and bright, filled with memories of laughter and friendship. As they walked inside, Hillary took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her past start to lift. Erica placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You're safe here," she said gently. Hillary nodded, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "Thank you, Erica. I don't know what I would do without you," she replied, her voice breaking slightly. Erica had been her rock throughout her marriage, the one person who saw through Michael's facade from the beginning. She'd warned Hillary, but Hillary had been too blinded by love to listen. Now she realized how much she'd lost by staying in that toxic relationship. But Erica had never given up on her, and that thought brought Hillary a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. She sank onto the couch, exhausted but relieved, finally able to breathe without fear of judgment or hostility. She was free, and with Erica's support, she knew she could rebuild her life. As Hillary settled into Erica's guest room, she let her mind wander to the next steps. The relief of leaving her in-laws' house was immense, but now came the harder part, rebuilding her life. She thought about her dreams, the ones she'd put on hold for so long. Her passion for fashion design had never faded, but it had been buried under the weight of her troubled marriage. Now she had the chance to start fresh. Erica had always encouraged her to pursue her dreams, and now, with Erica's support, Hillary felt the courage to take that leap. She spent the evening sketching designs, ideas that had been locked away for years now flowing freely onto the paper. The process was therapeutic, helping her reconnect with the part of herself she'd almost lost. As she worked, she felt a spark reignite within her, a sense of purpose and direction she hadn't felt in years. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, she was ready to fight for her own happiness. The future felt uncertain, but in the best possible way. The next morning, Hillary was sipping coffee when her phone rang. She saw Michael's name flash on the screen and felt a surge of anger. After everything he'd put her through, he had the nerve to call. She took a deep breath, preparing herself before she answered. "Hillary, what's this lawsuit about?" Michael's voice was sharp, annoyed. Hillary felt a strange sense of satisfaction hearing the irritation in his tone. She had filed for divorce and the lawsuit was just the beginning. "It's called accountability, Michael," she replied calmly. "Actions have consequences." There was a long silence on the other end of the line, and Hillary could almost picture the look of shock on his face. Finally, he spoke, his voice laced with disbelief. "You're really doing this?" Hillary smiled, feeling a sense of power she hadn't felt in a long time. "Yes, Michael, I am," she replied, ending the call before he could respond. For so long she had been afraid to stand up for herself, but now that fear was gone. She was ready to fight for what she deserved, no matter how difficult it might be. After the call, Hillary felt a surge of confidence. She was no longer the timid, uncertain woman who had tolerated her husband's coldness and her in-laws' disdain. She was a businesswoman, a designer with a vision, and she was done playing small. Erica had arranged a meeting with Fred, a lawyer she trusted, to help Hillary with the legal aspects of her divorce. That afternoon, they sat in Fred's office, reviewing the evidence Hillary had gathered. Text messages, emails, even a few recorded conversations where Michael had belittled her and dismissed her dreams. Fred nodded approvingly as he looked through the files. "This is solid, Hillary. We can make a strong case." Hillary felt a wave of relief wash over her. For the first time, she felt that justice was within reach. She'd spent years feeling powerless, but now, with Erica and Fred by her side, she felt unstoppable. This lawsuit wasn't just about ending her marriage, it was about reclaiming her life. She left Fred's office that day with a renewed sense of purpose, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the days went by, Hillary threw herself into her work, focusing on her designs and the future she wanted to build. She reconnected with old colleagues, people who remembered her talent and passion. The support she received was overwhelming. Many of them had noticed her absence from the industry and were thrilled to see her returning. With Erica's help, she started planning the launch of her own fashion line, something she had dreamed about since she was a teenager. Every step forward felt like a victory, a reminder that she was no longer under Michael's control. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings continued, with Michael becoming increasingly hostile. He'd sent her numerous angry messages, accusing her of ruining his life. But Hillary remained firm, refusing to be drawn back into his manipulative games. She was focused on her goals, determined to create a life that was hers alone. The more progress she made, the more empowered she felt, shedding the remnants of her past like an old skin. She was finally free to be herself. One afternoon, as she was working on a new design, her phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was from an unknown number. Curious, she picked up, only to hear the voice of her mother-in-law on the other end, her tone sharp and demanding. "Hillary, what do you think you're doing with this lawsuit? You're tearing our family apart." Hillary felt a familiar pang of frustration, but stayed calm. She wasn't about to let her mother-in-law guilt her into backing down. "Maybe you should have thought about that before treating me the way you did," she replied coolly. Her mother-in-law sputtered, trying to argue, but Hillary didn't give her the chance. "Actions have consequences, and now you're facing them," she said firmly, ending the call. The conversation left her feeling unsettled, but also resolute. She was no longer the passive, fearful daughter-in-law she had once been. She was standing up for herself, and she wasn't going to back down. As the weeks went by, Hillary's fashion line began to take shape. She poured her heart into her work, using her experiences as inspiration for her designs. Each piece she created felt like a piece of her story, a testament to her resilience and strength. Erica was by her side every step of the way, cheering her on and providing valuable feedback. They held brainstorming sessions late into the night, each one bringing Hillary closer to her dream. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings reached a boiling point. Michael was furious, having realized that Hillary wasn't backing down. He tried every trick he could think of to intimidate her, but she remained firm, refusing to be swayed. Fred had prepared her for this, reminding her of the strength she'd shown in leaving him. "You've come this far, Hillary. Don't let him scare you now," he'd said. And she didn't. She knew that this fight was about more than just ending her marriage. It was about reclaiming her sense of self. Finally, the day of the divorce hearing arrived. Hillary walked into the courtroom, her heart pounding, but her resolve unshaken. She glanced at Michael, who looked angry and defeated. For so long she had felt small in his presence, but now she felt a sense of triumph. As the judge finalized their divorce, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It was over. She was free. Erica was waiting for her outside, beaming with pride. "You did it, Hillary," she said, hugging her friend tightly. Hillary smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. She was no longer bound to a life of resentment and manipulation. She was ready to build a life of her own, filled with passion and purpose. As they left the courthouse, Hillary felt a newfound sense of freedom, a lightness she hadn't experienced in years. In the months that followed, Hillary's fashion line launched with great success. Her designs were a hit, praised for their originality and emotional depth. She felt a sense of pride with each piece, knowing that her journey had shaped her work. Erica stood by her side through it all, her unwavering support reminding Hillary of the strength she'd gained from her struggles. She no longer thought about Michael or the years she'd spent trying to please people who never valued her. Instead, she focused on her future, on the dreams she was finally free to pursue. Every day she felt more like herself, confident, capable, and unafraid. Her past no longer defined her. It had become a stepping stone towards something greater. Hillary had transformed her pain into power, and now there was no limit to what she could achieve. As she looked around at the life she had built, she knew she had truly come home to herself. The nightmare was over, and the future was hers.